Hello, and welcome to Catholicism in the Car. My name is Parker Zerba. Hi there, everybody. Yet another episode. Here we go. I was at an ordination for a good friend of mine in the diocese in which I live, which is the Diocese of Fort Wayne, South Bend. And our bishop, Bishop Kevin Rhoades, who I love dearly, he's a very, very good bishop, a very good man. He gave an amazing homily at this ordination. And one of the main things that stuck out to me, and it's been months. I think the ordination was at the beginning of June, and it's almost August now. So it's been about 2 months since he gave this homily. But one thing he said really stuck, and it was the importance of upholding doctrine. Now, a lot of people, when they hear the word doctrine, they get kind of bristled. When you hear the word doctrine, just think teaching. That's what the word doctrine literally means. It means teaching. So we have to uphold teaching. We have to uphold the truth. And our bishop, when he was giving this homily, he was speaking to the priests of our diocese, and particularly to those deacons about to be ordained priests, saying this importance of upholding the doctrine of the faith, the teaching of the faith. Now, not to take what he said out of context, but I want to kind of riff on it, because it is utterly important for our day and age that we uphold the teachings of the faith as Catholics, and particularly for the clergy to uphold the teachings of the faith and not to undermine it in any way. In any way. We had, as many, probably all of my listeners know, I think it's been about a month and a half now, Archbishop Cordileone of San Francisco banned Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House in the United States, from receiving communion because of her public stance on abortion. And there have been numerous people in the church, clergy and laity alike, who have derided Archbishop Cordileone for his decision. Now, I did a podcast on this a while ago. I think it was like episode 50-something. It was in the 50s. On both excommunication and also on this Nancy Pelosi issue. Now, this is episode 120, I think, so this won't be actually published for quite a while. I'm speaking, it's almost August now. This episode probably won't be published till October. That's how backed up I am, guys, on these episodes. I've only edited about 60 of them, and I've made 120. So just be patient with me, guys. And I don't want to put out many more than one a day during the weekdays, because I think it just gets harder for people to keep up with at that point. Maybe if I'm wrong, tell me, email me. You can find my email on our website, catholicisminthecar.com. But anyway, there are a number of people in the church who have not agreed with Archbishop Cordileone's decision. And I think that is made most manifest by the fact that, as I'm speaking right now, the Bishop of Washington, D.C., and also the Bishop of President Joe Biden's home diocese, wherever that is, I think it's Pittsburgh or something, have not come out and done the same as Archbishop Cordileone. And I think that is quite tragic, but also scandalous. It's quite scandalous. We need to uphold the doctrine of the faith, and that includes the social doctrine of the faith, especially when it regards the sanctity of human life. So, yes, bishops not only need to uphold the sanctity of human life as regards the issue of abortion, they also need to uphold the sanctity of human life as regards euthanasia. If politicians in a bishop's diocese, that live in a bishop's diocese or work in a bishop's diocese, are taking positions contrary to the Catholic faith on abortion, euthanasia, immigration, particularly if they're having, on the issue of immigration, if they're having absolute closed border policies, especially if they're taking that stance against refugees. I don't know of anybody that takes that stance, but there might be. There might be some extremists out there. If somebody's taking that stance, the bishop needs to say something to them. Now, the issue of immigration is not as pressing of an issue as those directly affecting life and death, as abortion and euthanasia. Yes, people die at the border, but generally, now I might be wrong here, but this is my understanding, generally that happens due to drug-related incidents. It's not due to, I guess I don't want to speak out of turn here, but it seems to me, it's not like people are being lined up and shot dead at the border. Okay. That's what would be an equivalent. Okay. It would be some sort of issue that's an immediate consequence of life and death. All right. Abortion is an issue of immediate consequence of life and death for those unborn. Euthanasia is an immediate consequence of life and death for those who are, living fully grown, in some state of suffering. I would argue either physical or mental suffering. Right? It's a very serious issue. The issue of euthanasia. A doctor is meant to preserve life, not take it. And I've done some podcasts on euthanasia in the past, so you can go back and look at them if you disagree with the opinion of the Catholic Church there. I think I probably offer some fairly unique arguments for the immorality of euthanasia. Oh wow, there's a giant semi coming by me. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to say here is this importance. I'm echoing what my bishop said in this homily. The importance of laity and clergy alike to uphold every facet of the Catholic faith in the midst of derision, persecution in certain instances, but I would say mostly derision, at least in the United States, that we uphold the teaching of the faith on social issues, on theological issues. There is never a moment for compromising the faith, and I mean compromise in like a literal sense. There, we can't do away with one teaching in order to appease people, right? In order to appease people trying to teach something else. So the issues of homosexuality, contraception, divorce and remarriage, transgenderism, transhumanism, as that I think inevitably is going to become an issue, or already is to a certain extent. All these things, we need to stand firm against them. And we need our clergy to stand firm against these issues, to speak about them from the pulpit. I know a lot of clergy will say that it's hard to speak about sexual issues from the pulpit because of children being in the audience. But you can speak about these things without being explicit. I mean, I think I've done that fairly well on this podcast, especially during our social issues series. I think I've done fairly well with not being explicit about things. Yeah, I don't think there's any excuses for not preaching these things from the pulpit for our clergy. And then for laity, being able to have discussions with people about these things in the trenches. I work in the trenches. I'm a layperson. I work this podcast, the YouTube channel. This is an effort of evangelization in the trenches. And, I try to evangelize at my work as much as possible. I'm not overt about it because that generally doesn't bode well for evangelization. But I don't hide my faith. I'm very open to talking with people. Not that I'm a perfect example. I'm not. I make a lot of mistakes. I'm often a coward. Okay, I'll be the first to admit that. I am often a coward. So I get it. But particularly priests in the pulpit, we need you. We need you to speak out on these issues so that the lay people know where to take a stance. Because most people aren't going to go out and read all the church documents on these things. They're not going to read the church councils. They're not going to read the latest encyclicals on these things. That most people don't have time for that kind of stuff or desire. and lay people don't need time or desire for those sorts of things. Those things are supposed to be conveyed to us by the clergy, Now, if you have an interest in those things, go out and read it. I love reading that stuff. I love reading the church councils. I love reading the encyclicals, all that kind of nerdy stuff. I love it. One of the reasons why I host this podcast and the YouTube channel. But most people, they're never going to hear about these things. So if a new encyclical comes out, even if it's by Pope Francis and there's some gray areas in it, right? Some obscurities in it, you should still read it from the pulpit, even if it takes a couple weeks. Read it from the pulpit, or at least read highlights from it, okay? Read highlights from the pertinent areas of church councils that deal with doctrine. So maybe the various canons of every council. Go through those with them from the pulpit so that people get a catechesis of what are these highest level things that the church has proclaimed. Infallible statements of popes. Now, I get it. That can be a little difficult to parcel out, except for the ones where it's done like ex cathedra, like the definition of the Immaculate Conception and the Assumption in the 1850s and the 1950s. But I get it. Like, it can be difficult to find out exactly where, what's exactly an infallible teaching and what's not when they're not that clear, right? That's more of a thing for theologians to figure out. But at least those main documents, documents like Casti Connubii, Pope Pius XI, I think, his encyclical on marriage. Read that to your lay people. Oh my goodness, or at least highlights from it. It's a long document, so you don't have to read the whole thing, but read highlights from it. Because, yes, we need to preach scripture to people. And there's only 52 Sundays in a year, and, I get it. There's only so much you can do. But, and we need to keep scripture at the forefront as well. But you can incorporate, how does we have this three-legged stool of the church, scripture, tradition, and the magisterium, in your homilies. Maybe think about, how can we fit all those together? We read the gospel, read the first and second readings at Sunday Mass. How do those fit into maybe, a church document of the magisterium, a church council being one of the highest authorities of magisterial teaching? How does this fit into tradition? All these sorts of things. So anyway, I'm just offering my thoughts here as a humble layperson, or not so humble, and nervous laughter. And anyway, I hope this is relevant for people. Any priest listening to this, please know that I love you, and that I'm doing this as a son, asking his father for more food, more substantial. All right. God bless y'all. Oh, real quick, please feel free to subscribe to any of my podcasts on any of the podcast players. Find me on YouTube. Please subscribe. Like me on Facebook, like the Catholicism Car channel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all there, Catholicism Car. And then I also have a Patreon account if you wish to support what I do at this podcast and this YouTube channel. And you can also support us on Anchor.fm. There's a support button there you click on. I also have links to all of this on my website's support page at www.catholicisminthecar.com.